good evening, and welcome to Let's Talk Personal. I am your host, Frances Reimers. If you'd like to join in on tonight's conversation, which is set to be a very good one, you can do so on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio or on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. If you'd like to talk personally to me, and I know that you do, you can find me on Twitter at Your Firestarter or on Instagram at Firestarter CEO. So a couple of things before we get started tonight. You're probably wondering, Frances, you advertised that you had a pretty awesome guest. Where is that awesome guest? Well, thanks to the Redskins making a late night trade last night, my awesome guest has to be remote because he will be reporting on said trade a little bit later. So I am introducing remotely, joining me from somewhere else in the DC metro area. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Santana Moss. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. What's up?
I'm glad that you could make time for me today with all of the craziness that's going on.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
So, everyone will probably want to hear you talk about Kirk Cousins. We are not talking about Kirk Cousins. I'll let you save that for another bat time, another bat channel. I want to talk about you because you're the reason that tonight's show is happening. For those that are watching the show from elsewhere in the United States and around the globe, Santana is a former Washington Redskin, New York Jet, Pro Bowl wide receiver, and number 89 in your playbook, but always number one in our hearts. So I wanted to have Santana on tonight because, one, he's a great person, but also he has a great brand story. So I wanted to talk a little bit, Santana, a little unknown fact that folks probably don't know about you unless they've read deep into your bio. Right after you decided to hang up the cleats, you decided to go back to school.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what you decided to do, how you got there, and how that impacted your life.
Well, to be honest with you, thanks for having me on for
Of
one.
course.
But as a pro, you go through your career, you have so many things coming up. I mean, I remember it wasn't a boring year for me ever. In 14 seasons of playing in the NFL, every off season was an adventure. I'm always thinking about what can I invest in, what can I, do to make sure I can hold on to that money. So many things come up, and then you find out sometimes you fall short, you lose money, you lose investments, different things may happen perhaps. But one thing I can always rely on, I had some great agents. Drew Rosenhaus and his brother Jason always gave us ideas, always gave us, chances to get ahead. They always came up with different little outlets for us to, hey, go back to school. If you didn't get your first degree, go and get one, period. If you got one, go get a second one at Harvard, do the Harvard study plan that they had for all the athletes in the NFL, different things like that. And here I am saying to myself, I kind of miss school. I do want to, get a higher education, do something that I didn't do while I was in there the first term.
Mm-hmm.
I got my first degree, my bachelor's degree in liberal arts. I actually was an education major and got to the last year and needed Spanish 2 just to finish. And
Right.
I was touring and doing all the stuff for the combine. They said, hey, if you finish with liberal arts, you still get a degree and you still can, be a teacher. Hey, let's go. So I did all that, and then as I'm playing, Jason Rosenhaus hit me one day and said, "Hey, they have this opportunity that I think might be great for you." I was in year 14, didn't know what 15 or 16 was going to do for me,
Right.
and he was like, "Oh, they have a thing at University of Miami where you can do a accelerated program for MBA business management program where they're taking on NFL players and entertainers." And I thought hard and long, and I said, you know what? Due to the fact I'm gonna be a free agent this off season, I might as well take a shot at it. And I did that, and I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Thanks to Jason Rosenhaus, thanks to Drew. Those guys have always been great agents. You hear so much stuff about Drew, and he's steady, knocking down walls and giving these guys these great contracts. But I give them all the credit for allowing me to even put my mind in that mode and go on that path. And now I can really, rest assured and know I have another degree on my belt.
Right. And after you completed your degree, you kind of made your way back to the DC metro area, and your current opportunity was laid out in front of you in a beginning form. Talk a little bit how you got from football to now school. Now you're in front of the camera. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about the whole time that I set out that 2015 football season, I know I was a free agent, and Drew was hitting me up every week. Hey, I'm getting calls, but everyone knows you out there. They know you still can run. You know, that's one of the biggest things for a wide receiver, for an Asian wide receiver.
Right.
Guys have to watch your film and see if you can still separate, see if you can still get open. And everyone said that. Everyone knew that, you know, I still had those skills. The one thing I know about this league that it's what have you done for me lately? And that 2014 season was a year when, you know, John Gruden came here. I mean, Jay Gruden, my bad. Jay Gruden
Right.
came here to the team, and he didn't play me as much.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I wasn't his guy. You know,
Right.
and I'm not a guy to sit here and cry over spilled milk. What's done is done.
Mm-hmm.
Later in that season, you realize that, well, you know what, maybe we should play Santana more. The guy who we playing in front of him, you know, even though he's younger, even though we paid him more, it's not panning out. And then now he decided to play me. And it just didn't go well. You know, I was kind of shut out already. My mind, mentally, I was somewhere else because I was kind of upset about it. But I never wanted to make it about myself. I've always been a team guy. I've always been a true sport to know that, you know, regardless of what's going on with me, you know, I'm in control of me. And that's all I can control. And when it comes to the team, if that's the decision of the people at the higher hand, the upper hands, I have to let them, you know, make those decisions. So, truth be told, I knew that after that season, it's going to be hard to play again because, you know, coach is going to watch film and want to see what did he do and why wasn't he playing for the team that had him for so long. So as I'm sitting home, I'm thinking to myself, what do I want to do other than football? Is it anything ever or anything out there that attracts my mind other than football? And I knew from the get-go, no. I knew that the one thing that I can fall back on is teaching, but I didn't see myself teaching being in any one classroom, being a teacher in grade school, middle school, or high school. I said the only way I can see myself teaching or giving my knowledge is on the football field. Right. So I thought first, hey, maybe I might take a crack at being a coach. And a lot of guys were shooting at me saying, hey, the media will be great for you because you have a lot of knowledge, and every time you got in front of the camera, you was great. You was always a guy, a stand-up guy. I got up there, and over the years, those reps can come in handy for your second career. Right. And I had a friend who worked with, at the time, CSN. He's the guy that gets the big funds from the sponsors for some of these shows, and Eric Schuster. Eric always told me, when you're done playing football, I'm going to make you a TV star. And I'm sitting there, Eric, man, you know, I hear it come in one ear, go out the next. And he said, Tanner, you know, when you're done playing football, I'm going to make you a TV star. Right. So here I am. I get a call. Dan Snyder want me to come to a game. I came up to a game, and the media attacked me. They finally see me. It's 8 weeks into the season, and I haven't been on anyone else's team. And, you know, everyone missed me. They know that I've been there for 10 years, and they wonder what's next for Santana. And I'm talking, and Eric saw me, and he said, hey, I want you to meet with some of my staff members, and we can see if we can maybe get you on CSN. Right. And the rest was history. You know, it was then CSN, now it's NBC Sports, Washington. And those guys blessed me with a door that they opened up for me, and I kind of walked through it. And gracefully, I've been, you know, every day and every month and every week and every month, every year, I'm just getting more reps and trying to, you know, fine-tune some of the things that I have naturally and fine-tune some of the things that I'm learning on the process of, you know, being an analyst.
Right. And going back to the teaching for just a second, you're still in a teaching mode. Just today you announced your participation on iMentor. Talk a little bit about that and how people can connect with you through that platform.
Well, Social Mentor is a platform. A friend, I can't say a friend of mine, a guy reached out to me on the social media. You know, he's always been, you know, going back and forth with me. So I call him a friend. Everybody who's on my social media, if I follow you, if I comment, I look at us all as friends. You know, that's one of the things about me being a so-called celebrity or someone that these people or fans look up to. I'm not the fan that feel like I'm bigger than the next guy. I feel like if you reach out, I should be able to reach back out and say hey to you, as long as you're not being snobby or give me you know, but honestly, this guy's been trying to get me for the whole last year. He said he has a platform now where he's mentoring kids, mentoring people that needs that mentor or need that father figure, that brother, you know, you name it. For the women athletes, that mother, that sister figure. And he was like, a lot of people don't have this opportunity to talk to people like myself or even anyone in that limelight. So he reached out and asked me that I want to be a part of it. And I think for the most part of my career, even before playing in the NFL, I've always been that guy that went back to high schools, middle schools,
Right.
my parks, neighborhoods that I grew up in, and always kind of been that kind of role model to the kids and to the youth.
Right.
I think now with what I'm doing, just off the field, that's me. That's the thing I'm trying to teach to these kids, that they can be me. I'm one of those guys you can touch. If you can
Right.
touch me, you can be me. So I social mentor it's allowing guys like myself to be able to be reached by some of these people on the social network. So it's nothing that I made up.
Right.
You can go on my Instagram and find out more about it. But it's a guy, whoever made it up, I think is genius, because now he's giving people a platform to be able to speak on to some of these kids that need to be heard or need to listen to folks like myself.
Right. And additionally, people probably may or may not be aware that you're extremely philanthropic. Please talk about a little about your foundations and their mission.
Well, my first foundation I started back in, I believe, 2000. It was my senior year in college, and then it ran over to 2001. My 2001 season was my senior year, but I started way back in 2000, where we started the Santana Moss Foundation, and the Santana Moss Foundation was just basically a foundation that I wanted to be able to allow the inner city kids to be able to have a chance to, like I said before, to see the guys that they look up to allow them to understand that we're just like them. Some of us grew up in some of these same areas. Some of guys like myself had some of these same harsh times. And if they can believe that, they can overcome, then they should be able to overcome it. We did that. We was guys that came up from some of these upbringings. I was a guy so determined when I was young. I tell people my story all the time. I knew as early as I was 6 or 7 years old that the life that I had, I wanted more. I wanted better. I looked at my mom and my dad busting their behinds for me and my brothers, and I'm like, this can't be the end. This is not going to be, recycled. I'm not going to be in these same shoes when I'm an adult, And I just took my hat off to my parents, because I saw them progress and get better with their jobs and just make a better living for us, to where when that second stage of, I felt like we was comfortable enough for me to, be able to do what I want to do, I knew we can have more and they can have more. So I was a guy that, as a kid, determined. A lot of kids don't have that kind of, determination. They don't have that kind of support system. They don't have that kind of train of thought. So Santana Moss Foundation was founded just so I can give those kids that hope, give those kids that support, give those kids that want to, so they can know that, man, look, I'm backing you. If you don't have it at home, you can look at me, you can count on me to be there for you every year around the same time. If I can give it out of my pocket, if I can get sponsors, don't worry how I can give, I'm going to give something back. And I think we did that with the good intentions of just making sure these inner city kids knew that it was always hopes. And now, fast forward to today, I started a new foundation, probably like not so much of a month ago. It's called 89 Ways to Give. 89 Ways to Give will still, be dealing with some of the same things, giving back to the kids, giving back to the youth. Last summer, I had my first summer camp. It was called the Moss Academy down here in Ashburn, Virginia, or Leesburg, Virginia. And it was the first of many, many more. I'm going to do it again this summer. Last summer we did a week long, and it had 28 kids. And already I can assure you that it's going to be probably more than that. Kids have been talking about it. Parents have loved it. They've been talking about it all year long. So I'm just looking forward to continue to give back to some of these kids that I feel like, regardless of what level that they on when it comes to, how they're living, I think they still need guidance in the right direction. And due to the fact that some of the circumstances that I went through and overcame, and now the success that I've had throughout my career, and now my second stint out here doing something different, I can always give that knowledge and give that guidance.
Right, absolutely. And in addition to everything else, the other hat that you wear, you are a parent. You got some little ones. How do you balance as a parent, because you have some of your kids are old enough to be on social media and be engaged. How are you balancing being a parent, but also a parent who is on social media along with your kids? What rules or regulations or boundaries do you set with them? How do you talk with them when they see something about you that may be hurtful or unflattering? What are those conversations like?
I don't have many of them, because I think my kids feed off of me. They basically look at how I handle myself and handle things around me, and they kind of, your kids are going to be a split image of you.
Right.
You know, I've always told them if you're a wild parent and you're out there having a good time all the time and setting a bad example, your kid's going to be setting a bad. That example is going to lead over to them, and you're going to see, you're going to see outbursts from them.
Right.
I try to conduct myself always at the best I can. You know, I'm not one of those. We're not perfect. No one. It's a time and a place for everything. So I just hear my dad say that so much. It's a time and a place for everything. Right. Everyone's going to have that moment where we're going to have a happy hour and we're going to go have a good time with our friends. And, your kids don't have to see that.
Right.
What I tell my kids is that, it's a time and a place, but it's also a time when they can be an adult and have that fun. Right. As a kid, I want you to enjoy yourself and have fun, but you got to understand, stay in a kid's place. So I don't really, put too many rules on them. I just show them right from wrong. I show it to them daily by telling them things I see. I respond to things I see. I respond to things that they might think that's cool or they might not know that's wrong or right. And I respond quickly and just let them know, don't do that. I don't want to see that. And they know right then and there, well, I know I can't do certain things on this thing. I can't see things. And, my older kids, my son, Santana Jr., I don't really have to do too much talking to him. He just, like I said, he basically absorbed everything that I've taught over the years, and he's almost like a splendid image of me. My daughter, it gets kind of a little thick and sticky when it comes to the girls because they have to understand that there's people out there that's watching them, that's following them, that they're young ladies. It's going to be people out there that's on there that's inappropriate at times. And, my daughter, what I had to tell her is that, you can't want everybody to know who you are. People know who you are half the time, and the ones that don't know who you are, oh well, because I've seen the times when she comment on things, and I'm like, look, if they don't know you're my daughter, if they don't know that's your dad, then oh well. But don't reach out and let people know what you have going on because they're going to try to attack you in a certain kind of way to get to me. And, just from some of those lessons, they learn, and they're kids. At the end of the day, they make mistakes just like adults make mistakes.
Right.
But just try to let them know on the go, on the fly, what I call on the fly. And just daily, we all learn each other and learn, things that's appropriate and that's inappropriate.
So when you and I graduated college, and I won't say the year, but when we graduated college, there was no social media. And we went through college and started the majority of our career completely social media less. And then it came on the scene and literally took over our lives. Talk a little bit about your evolution as being someone in the spotlight as social media has taken over our lives and what that has been like for you as an individual.
I'm kind of fortunate that it came at the time it came towards the end of my career because
right.
I was always a private guy. I never would. I don't like to hear things, negative stuff, and I think a lot of times social media can be negative towards a person that's in my line of work.
Right.
One thing I hate about the media before I became a part of the media
right.
is that I hated to see the negative stuff that they displayed, weekly about players or teams or just anything negative. Right. But I understood, that negative stuff drives audiences and it pays the bills a lot of times. I learned at an early age, all publicity is good publicity. So
right.
to understand that at times. And over the years of playing, I understood it, but I just didn't want to see it. So I used to always just have the train of thought to say, hey, if I see anything about my team, about myself, I turn from it. Or right. if I hear it, I turn from it. I don't like to, bring myself in that vicinity and be able to feel off those vibes. I'm a person that I basically socialize and deal with people off of the vibe I feel.
Right.
So if something's not giving me a good vibe, I don't want to listen to it or be around it. So right. social media is one of those things, when I first started, it was on Twitter.
Right.
And I remember having an encounter with someone on Twitter, going back and forth with words. And I have a lot of people that look out for me and they protect me in a certain way to where I don't have to be that bad guy all the time.
Right.
And my friend saw this guy going back and forth with me, and I'm short when it comes to word. I don't have much to say to you.
Right.
I'm like in person, and it's a whole different ball game. I don't talk much when it comes to that.
Right.
I feel like when you're doing a lot of talking, you're barking up the wrong tree half the time, and most of the time, the people with the biggest bark be the one that don't have nothing really else in store for you. So right. I learned that from my father. But my friends kind of attacked the guy in a certain way verbally, like he was trying to attack me. And it caused some stuff to me just to get off of Twitter.
Right.
And Instagram came around. It was towards the end of my career. I had probably like 3 or 4 seasons left in my career. And I was able to accept Instagram because you're just taking pictures and you're just showing them, hey, my daily, what I'm looking like today and where I'm going. So I thought that was more of something that I want to be a part of other than someone commenting and always talking trash to you back and forth. what I found out on Instagram, they're tacky on that too. So
Yes.
cool. But one of the things I try not to do is give people that 15 minutes of fame. You know,
Right.
It's going to be a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of people that have nothing going on in their life and all they know is hate. So they're going to go on there and they try to hate all day. But you don't comment to those folks. You comment to the ones that are there and that's sincere, and the ones that really, really, follow you for the right reasons. And that's why I say, the ones that the 4,000 people that follow me, I'm trying to be the best of I can be to you as a as a follower or as a friend, because I feel that if you're taking your time out to follow me, then I should be able to give you that same support back.
Right. And so what advice would you give for younger athletes that are coming up? I mean, these kids are digitally native. They live and breathe this. And so unlike you or I, they've not had to build their professional career by learning how to navigate this while learning the tools at hand. There is some emotional detriment to these platforms, especially when people are saying and doing nasty, ugly things at you. What would be your advice for guys that are coming up in the league, or any sport really, who are in the spotlight, how to deal with kind of the slings and arrows of, the emotional onslaught? I mean, any player can tell you after a big loss or you make a really dumb play, people are going to come at you on social media that likely have never met you in your life. But some of their, words hurt. What would be your advice to some of these guys able to keep a balanced head when all of this stuff is coming at them?
Well, I just tell them to be careful. Like you said, we are human, and some of that stuff does hurt at times, but you have to have tough skin sometimes. I mean, one of the
Oh, no.
things I've always told I get fired. Window, my ears.
Oh. Well, we will try to get him back online here in a second, and here he is. Sorry. Yeah, you're back on. So anyway, as you were saying.
Yeah, you just got to know it comes with the territory. And if you're going to allow yourself to be a part of that, that's some of the things that you have to deal with. And like I said before, it's ways to get around it. You block the ones that's not true to you, and the other ones that, are just on there and just watching you. You make sure you don't give them a chance to watch anything if you don't want them to watch it. But I know what comes with it, and I know what you can get out of it. So I accept it for what it is and try not to even, put myself in that light for them to even comment in a harsh way at times.
And the personal professional boundary for every athlete is a little bit different. How did you decide for yourself where to draw the line between how much you share on social media and how much people get to actually know about you in your real life?
Well, like I told you before, I'm very private with a lot of things, but I think out everything I do. It's not a day go by that I don't think about something or how to do it or how to be portrayed. I'm not going to post anything or everything. I'm going to post what I want you to know or what I want you to see. So that's how I go about it. I mean, I just try to give you something or some of what I'm doing or what I'm being a part of. And to me, I think that's enough at times. I mean, sometimes my kids are on there. I like to show my kids and just, some of the fun we having and just being a dad. You kind of, you love your kids so much that you want to be able to share those times and those memories also throughout your page with your fans and with your followers. But I'm very selective of what I put out there because I don't want certain images out there. And I know how easily it is to be perceived in such ways.
Mm-hmm. And if you could go back in time, rewind to the top of your career, when you're thinking about building your brand and thinking about the reputation you want to put out there, was there anything that you would have done differently, or any, zig instead of zag? Is there any way you would have built out your career or your brand or anything that a little bit differently?
Well, you know what? I can't say. I'm not a guy that looks back and say, I regret something or I would have done something differently. I just think with time, we all grow and we learn from different experiences, So at whatever time it was then when I didn't have it, I was that person. And now the time that I have this outlet that I can use, I'm trying to use it to the best of my knowledge. I feel that what I've seen over the time of entertainers that I follow or people that's famous that I follow, they use it for their brand. They brand themselves well, and they actually are great marketers. You can market yourself without having someone to really put anything out there about you. Like I like to watch Kevin Hart and things he does on it. Him and The Rock, I think they have it. They have it sold up when it comes to how they present themselves and how they market the things that they're doing. So I try to almost, it's a copycat world, and everything you see done is going to be recycled or done again. And I try to take different little things from different folks that I see that's in somewhat of a, the same kind of, sense that I'm in or stage I'm on, and try to take from them if it's something that I find that I should be able to do also.
And you mentioned The Rock and Kevin Hart. Who else out there do you think is producing really good content or has a really good brand right now besides those two?
Well, one of the guys that I love watching daily is Plies. He's a rapper from Florida. He's so funny, man, and it's crazy because you have so many of these rappers nowadays coming out, and the music has changed so much. Plies have actually used Instagram to keep himself relevant, and then now he's just putting out hits. Right. And it seems like it all come from Instagram because it's like he's getting all his content from his listeners and his viewers, and he's able to go out there and make records off of this stuff. And besides Plies, it's another guy. He's a comedian from Jacksonville, Florida. Lil Duval. Lil Duval has always been doing what he's been doing for a long time, and now to see that everything is coming to light for him, and he's taking what social media has allowed to him to have a bigger audience. He's taking it and he's running with it. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from those guys because they are Florida guys and they're guys that I've been watching for years, way before social media.
And what's one social media trend that you wish would just quit, that people would just stop doing?
It's a lot of them. I don't have one in mind. The one thing I hate about social media is people get things or they see things and they take it and run with it. When I mean that, it's like, you name it. Like if anything you heard that happened or anything the president said or anything that was blown out of proportion, get the full facts before you get it and you keep reposting this and talking about something like the little incident that happened with the kid who wore the shirt that said something about the monkeys and all that. Right. I was upset with that, but I wasn't as upset because, like someone stated, that kid has a mother or a parent or someone that cares about him. So they had to understand what he was wearing, and they had to know what was going on. At the end of the day, he was a paid model, and if you took it harsh, then that's on you. If his parents didn't see nothing wrong with it, then his parents didn't see nothing wrong with it. And I feel like that got blown out of proportion, and that's some of the things that I hate when I see on social media because, like I said before, it's a copycat world. People see things and they see one person posting and everybody want to post it and be a part of it, not knowing the actual facts of the matter.
Right. So I know that there's a few people tuning in right now that are absolutely livid with me because I have not allowed you to talk about the Kirk Cousins situation. So where can people tune in a half an hour to find out your commentary on the Kirk Cousins situation?
Well, since we're taping, it might not be live, so but they can look at NBC Sports Washington if they're local. Right. NBC Sports Washington tend to see all the stuff about Kirk Cousins and the Alex Smith whole debacle and trade and everything to the Washington Redskins. We've been talking, that was on last night, today, earlier, and now tonight. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be nothing but coverage of that whole situation. And if they want to hear more, I mean, it's going to be all week long. We'll probably be having something going on tomorrow as well.
And who was the player that found out via Twitter that he too was also traded?
Well, it was funny. It was a funny situation. So my man Fuller, he was one of our better. Kendall Fuller was one of our better defensive backs last year. He was a second-year guy that stood out, led the team in interceptions. And when it first came about, rumors were saying that he was getting traded. He was swapping positions with, swapping teams with Alex Smith. Right. And he tweeted like, "Hey, it's not me." And then the next tweet was like, "Hey, I'm good. I'm safe. I'm not getting traded." Then the next tweet was Bart Simpson or Homer Simpson
fading back into the bushes.
Well, right after I found out that I was traded, this is how I feel. So, but now I think he got a better grasp on it, and he understands the business of the game, and he's a great talent. I think he's going to have a great career in this league. It's hard for a guy to have to deal with that after having one of his better seasons so early in his career to have to be traded right after having one of his better seasons. But the business kind of, screw you like that at times. But I think over in Kansas City, he'll be well appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Santana Moss, we appreciate you. I thank you so much for dialing in tonight. And I'm sure your Instagram is blowing up with people who are not following you but are following you now. And I will talk to you later this week.
Thank you so much, Francis. Take
Bye.
care.
And for all of us who are left behind, we're going to take a short break to let me regroup, and then we're going to come back and talk about athletes and transitioning their brand, playing off some of the stuff that Santana brought to the table. So hold tight. We'll be right back. And thank you for joining us. That was a great interview by Santana Moss. What he didn't mention is if you'd like to follow him on Twitter or Instagram, you can find him obviously by spelling his name, but also 8 to the 9 is his both his Twitter and his Instagram handle. So if you'd like to connect with him, please do so. He is wonderful in person as well as on camera. So I appreciate him making the time. If you would like to connect with the show, and of course I hope that you do, you can do so on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio or on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. I would always love for you to talk to me, so you can do so on Instagram at Firestarter CEO or on Twitter at Your Firestarter. So before we left, for those who are just tuning in now, we previously had former wide receiver for the Washington Redskins and the New York Jets and Pro Bowl wide receiver Santana Moss on the show. He did a great job of giving a little flavor of what life after the NFL has been for him, making the transition back to education, then into broadcasting, and you can see him here in DC on NBC Washington, and he'll be on a little bit later tonight talking about the whole Kirk Cousins debacle. People are losing their minds in the DC metro area. I know those of you outside of the DC metro area could care less, but here in DC, this is like big doings, and so that was the reason he could not join me in studio tonight. But for the rest of the show, I did want to talk a lot about questions that I get frequently from people are from athletes. A lot of athletes follow me, engage with me, and their biggest questions are always, when should I start transitioning my brand? What are things that I should be thinking about? What are resources that I should be tapping into? And so actually, these kinds of things are pertinent to athletes, but they're actually pertinent to everybody. So whether you're a professional services provider, a business owner, an athlete, what have you, the pivoting of your brand sounds tricky, but it really can actually be a very simple process. So I wanted to spend the remainder of tonight talking about what kind of happens in that brand pivot, you know, when you've been doing something for the better part of your career and now you're pivoting into something else. Maybe you've been an attorney for a really long time and you've just decided to quit your job and become, you know, somebody that just makes crafts all day long. What do you do with that? How do you transition that brand? What does that look like? So the first thing that I always stress to clients, to friends, well, pretty much to anyone who's willing to listen to me, is that the sooner the better. That's why planes have very, very long runways, because they need all that time and energy to be able to get up in the air. So the longer you give yourself to transition your brand, regardless of what you do, the better. The sooner you know what your next move is going to be, the sooner we can start kind of plotting out how we make that transition. So let's say, for example, you've been playing in the NBA for 15 years, and now you've decided that you're going to hang it up and you're going to host a podcast. So what do? Well, first of all, let's hope that you've decided, long before you've left the NBA, that you eventually want to start your podcast. So you want to start a couple years out of one, making sure that you can actually do the job. This is hard work, folks. I don't have a teleprompter, and it's just me. So first of all, can you actually do what it is that you want to transition into? So reach out, find resources, make sure that you're actually capable of unless you have gobs of money and you just don't care. Let's first make sure that the next step in your dream is actually attainable. Sit down, talk to people, maybe go to a trainer, maybe learn what you have to do. But the first step is finding out if you can actually do it, or if you have the financial means to do it. If you're a professional services person and you're wanting to change careers, let's make sure financially that you're not going to put yourself in bankruptcy to pursue whatever you're thinking next. So first is like the logistical of, can you actually do what it is that you would like to do? Second, once you've determined that this is actually attainable, we don't want to abandon the base that you already have. So for me, I went from working at an agency to owning my own company. Yes, I stayed within the same industry. Marketing is marketing is marketing. But going from working for somebody else to being the person that is in the forefront of everything, that takes a little bit of a transition. I went from talking about marketing as an industry to transitioning over to being a leader in marketing and leadership pieces. And I slowly but surely, methodically did that over time, because I didn't want to leave my base. I didn't want to leave my peers also in marketing and lose that honeypot, as I like to call it. So I kept creating content that was speaking to that base, but I slowly but surely was methodically creating content that spoke to the next step, that was speaking to not me being a worker bee, but making money moves. God, I hate Cardi B. But I slowly but surely started making content that was showing that I was moving in that progression. So for an athlete, let's say if you're playing basketball, playing football, you're going to retire in a couple of years, and you really know that you want to go into business. You want to own a business. So what I always recommend is that we start building out content, not every day, not all the time, but it's a slow roll, right? It's a groundswell that's taking you from XYZ player to XYZ businessman. If you do it and slowly build it over time, it feels more organic. It feels more tangible to the reader. And so over time, we start building this content and transitioning you from one place to the other. Now, if you're making this transition, you also kind of slowly transition how you talk about yourself on your social media platforms, right? So on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, on all of those, we have those bios. I'm one of the weird people that I actually read people's bios on Twitter and Instagram and those places, because I like to see how people talk about themselves. So if you're currently an athlete and you're thinking about moving yourself over to entrepreneur, over time, we start slowly migrating that message over. Because one, we don't want to upstage your current pot to give an announcement about your next endeavor. So we want to slowly introduce it over time so people don't stop focusing on the limelight that you're in right now. We don't want to give the exclusive away. So we slowly work that into the dialogue, and we transition you over. The reason for that is you're not trying to be sneaky. You're not trying to do, something behind people's back, but we just don't want to take the limelight off of what you're doing right now. So if you're an attorney now, but you want to just sit in your house and do crafts, we don't want to turn away while you're still collecting a paycheck as an attorney. We don't want them to think that you're abandoning ship. You still want to do your job. You still want to serve your clients. But over time, we can slowly kind of drift you in this direction. And when you open up your craft shop or your tea house, we've moved you over into this direction, and you're now producing content over in this hat right here. So the longer of a runway we have, the better time that we can start plotting out methodically of this transitional move, creating that content in the form of blogs or videos or speeches or public appearances. The more time we have to make that transition, the better. Also, we want to have time to have behind the scenes conversations to maybe provide better opportunities for you in this space here. That's why I always tell people take a lot of time. But also social media. We want to start being able, if you're making a transition, some of your followers may not follow you to this new endeavor that you're taking on. They liked you and wanted you in this one space, but they may not like you or want you in this other space. So we're slowly making the transition, kind of how you pull taffy. We're kind of hoping that we can pull them along, but in the meantime, helping to gain you followers and fans wearing this new hat. So it's not like stop from start to finish. And so we want to elongate it and make sure that you're bringing people from one direction to the other. And that's again why the hope to have the long runway is so that we can slowly but surely make sure that all of your fans are following you from one place to the other, but also give us time to start building up fans in this new pot as well, because that takes time. You want to research them, you want to find out who they are, and make sure that they're people that you want to be following or following you. And so that research, that data, going back from one place to the other is another reason why having that long runway is key, so that we can kind of taffy the followers from one place to the other. Also, getting that content ready. The longer road we have, we can start building out quality content and not just throwing stuff up there. So when you make that transition, it's just like, blah! Gonna take a break here really quickly because someone is dialing in with a question for me and I want to be able to answer it. So I'm gonna take a break for a second and deal with this question and maybe bring it back here on the camera. So hang in there with me and I'll be back in 1 second. Well, we have a very special treat today. Dialing in and live here in just a second is former UVA legend and NBA legend Ralph Sampson. Mr. Sampson, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad that you're on East Coast time because I don't know if this would have ever worked out if you were at home.
Well, I'm sitting in a hotel in North Carolina getting ready to go to a speaking engagement. I looked online and saw your information and Santana on there as well. So I figured I'd call in and see how you were doing and tell you your show looks great.
Well, this is a special treat for those of you that don't know. Yes, thank you, Jacob. Put a picture of you. Those shorts. Did you ever? I'm sorry. Did you ever feel naked wearing those shorts? Those are short shorts.
Yeah. No, I didn't because I always had some biking shorts or tights on underneath, so it's all good.
I mean, that's just too short. But for the folks tuning in, and for those who don't know, the show is broadcast, Jacob, in 180 countries. Is that we're alive in
Oh, wow.
180 countries? So I know that there are people in the Middle East watching us right now because I'm related to them. But this is around the world. So just to bring people up quickly, Ralph played for UVA here in Virginia, and then
Yes.
also played for played in Houston for all of your career, correct?
No, well, I was drafted in 1983, and I went picked to the Houston Rockets, and then I played there 6.5, 7 years, and I got traded to the Golden State Warriors, which back then we wasn't that good as they are today,
Right.
but I watched them play often. And then I got traded to the Sacramento Kings for a little while, and then retired in 1995.
And since that time, you've been owning businesses and moving and shaking, but you have a big endeavor going on right now. Why don't you tell the folks what you're up to these days?
Well, coming out of the NBA or coming out of sports, you got to kind of transition into the real world and figure out what you could do next. So my first couple of business endeavors in the mid to late 90s and 2000 were in the T-shirt and branding business. So I know about licensing. I learned that over a couple of years. I created a lot of products into the sports arena with college university. So that was my first stint with just marketing and developing life after basketball. I sold those companies and subsequently got into other deals in real estate in the 2000s in that market, which was great. Now, did student housing with some other companies, and that went pretty well until the market crashed. So, that led me to things and understanding business a little bit more. So now I'm in more of the entertainment world where we are taking athletes, as I think some of the things you said earlier about branding yourself, and trying to take them into the world where they can use their brands, even though they might be retired.
Right.
And they may not have a lot of social media bandwidth right now because some of them may not understand it. So they might have a Facebook page and some Instagram, et cetera, but they don't really know how to use it as well. So creating their brand under our umbrella Lionfish Entertainment, the revenue share with them so they can make a little bit of money. So that's my newest, latest, and greatest, but I'm excited about it and an opportunity to at least help some guys out that I know, and hopefully we can create this thing to be a bigger venture than what it is.
And people can catch you on your own show. Talk about where people can hear you and connect with you every Saturday.
Yeah, right now we have a show called Outer Bounds with Ralph Sampson and my co-host Jason Fisher. You can listen to it, stream it on WTON.radio.net right now, and then it will be over into the podcast world later on. And we're building websites and all that kind of stuff as well, so people can in the Shenandoah Valley can listen to it on 1240 ESPN and or listen to it via streaming. So we're excited about that, and it should be fun.
And for those listening or watching, the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, so if you're not in the immediate Virginia area, please go to the website that he referenced, and that is Saturdays at 10 a.m. And on this Saturday is Santana Moss. So if you enjoyed his interview with our show, you can listen in to him and Ralph talking about football and all that good stuff on Saturday on that show. But Ralph, I want to talk about a little bit. I mean, you've had your fingers in a lot of different enterprises over the years, and your brand has evolved over the years. What are kind of the biggest brand lessons that you've learned as your career has evolved?
Well, I think, when you're playing, you have a bigger brand and opportunity. And most of us that when you play in those areas, you didn't quite understand the brand and how you can leverage that brand into something, more profitable in the long run. So I did that after I finished playing, and I never really wanted to be the brand or the name Sampson. Sampson. I did that, which my first company was Ralph Sampson Enterprises, et cetera, and I found out kind of the hard way. So trying to brand and work with a Magic Johnson or a Michael Jordan or somebody like that, which they had their own iconic brands, which they really never worked together, and doing stuff together. So I'm like, oh, this is crazy how it works. So I studied it for about 2 years. I went back to business school at the Darden School at UVA and got some, other formal education. And I realized that, who makes all the money? Nike was Nike, but it wasn't Phil Knight. It was Nike. Target and all these other brands that are out there, did some studying with that. And then you look at who makes all the money in the professional sports. It's typically the owners. And there's very few owners that people know. You might know a Mark Cuban with Dallas because he's vocal. You might know Gillette with Tom Brady and that crew up there in New England. So you know a few of the owners, Jerry Jones with the Cowboys, but who is the owner of the Utah Jazz? No one knows. I mean, they, unless you're local, but the general public won't know.
Right.
So the owners make all the money. So I sit back. So my first company after that was called Winner Circle because I wanted everybody to rule and reign and win in life.
Right.
Then it just started to evolve with different divisions of that. So branding and marketing was something I learned very early on after my NBA career because, you got to get out there and people have to know what you're doing, what you're about, and have a mission and a cause behind you. So I started that way, and I continue that today.
And what is the biggest takeaway? Because you know better than many, as a professional athlete and then as a businessman, you have people coming at you in every direction. Everybody wants to help you. Everybody wants, a piece of your enterprise. What has been the biggest lesson that you've had in able to kind of weed people out to keep the good people around you and the bad people at a distance?
It's funny because, I go back and forth from Virginia to Los Angeles, and in L.A., I've been introduced to a young kid named Kyle Kuzma. That's the Laker phenom player, the rookie, and he's doing very well. Imagine this kid, 27th pick in the NBA draft. Mm-hmm. Lakers didn't really have a clue what they had, and now he's kind of blown up. But he and his manager, which is a 30-year-old assistant coach that was with him, when he was younger, and kind of goes and helps take care of him. And they have no clue about the marketing, but learned it very quickly. And so they created a T-shirt called Kuzmania. They didn't license it. They didn't brand it. They didn't copyright it. Didn't do anything. They just put it on a T-shirt. They sold 5,000 T-shirts at $27 a pop and became a one-hit wonder. But then they kept seeing all these other things that people took from their logo and putting on coffee mugs, T-shirts, hats, whatever.
Right.
They're like, what's going on? Because they didn't protect themselves. So they had to, send the cease and desist orders out, and they're lawyers and the other, and they understand that as well. So you see that, and you're right. The wolves are out there with a young kid like that. But even, my dilemma is that, they may know the name Sampson to some extent, but they know the height. So I can't hide 7'4". So you must have played basketball. You must have done this. So you see that, and you get every deal and the mother coming at you. And I'll probably get 2 or 3 deals a week that I don't really even look at anymore because everybody wants you to do something for them or with them.
Right.
And it really doesn't make sense. So you can't do everything, but you got to be very selective and pick and choose the opportunities you want to go after. But also you got to put, just like winning the championship in basketball or any sport, you got to put a great team and a system around you so that you can win on a year-by-year basis. So that's really what it's all about.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we are coming to the end of our show, and I know that you have a speaking engagement to get to. So I do. I say give my best to the Boy Scouts, and we will.
Yes, I will.
And I will talk to you tomorrow. But thank you for dialing in.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Take
care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So tonight, for our weekly visitors, tonight has been a very huge rarity on Let's Talk Personal. But what a amazing group of people have been dialing in and touching base in. A couple of things that I want to talk about before we wrap for the evening is, of course, my dating profile workshops around the DC metro area. The first dating profile skills for guys will be this Friday at 7 o'clock at the Griffin here in DC. And then next week I have sessions in Fairfax and Woodbridge. And so if you are a single guy, or even if you're not a single guy, but you're out there and you want to build a dating profile that actually gets results but doesn't hurt your professional brand, because guess what? When ladies look at your online dating profile, they immediately go over to your professional profile, and you want to make sure you're just putting your best foot forward in both spheres. So come hear directly from yours truly about how to do that to make yourself look absolutely amazing so that you find love, or whatever version of love you're looking for in 2018. So this Friday, 7 o'clock at the Griffin in DC. Please join me. Otherwise, I hope to catch you next week on Thursday the 8th or Friday the 9th in Fairfax and Woodbridge, respectively. If you would like to connect with the show, and I certainly hope you do, as you saw tonight, if this is your first time tuning in, never a dull moment on Let's Talk Personal. You can join with us on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio or on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. I love it when I hear from you, and you guys are very vocal, which is great. You can connect with me on Instagram at Firestarter CEO or on Twitter at Your Firestarter. I am Frances Reimers. I am your host. This has been Let's Talk Personal, and I look forward to seeing you next week when I have Stephen and Anthony from the Out of Bounds radio show will be joining me. So more sports, more guys talking sports and brand. So tune in next week. I look forward to seeing you. Good night.